Am I the a-hole for pretending to get fired when customers get a temper with me? Am I the a-hole for switching to regular milk to prove my lactose-intolerant roommate keeps stealing from me? Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend to shut the fuck up after she insulted my sister's thighs? Am I the a-hole for pretending to get fired when customers get a temper with me? I am a high schooler with a weekend job at a coffee shop. My coworkers who work weekends are James, the owner's son. He goes to my school. He's a shift manager, but it's not a real formal thing. He's a friendly guy. Daniel, a college student who sometimes works weekends too. So sometimes customers will come in and just be angry about such little stuff, like literally blow up about nothing. I don't know if they're in a bad mood already and looking for someone to take it out on or what, but it's a lot. Like, how sad. So you have to be a grown ass man taking your anger out on high school and college kids? So James and I were joking about having a little fun with them and hopefully getting them off our backs. So one day I was at work and some guy was having a temper about how we don't make the coffee hot enough, which I couldn't do a thing about because I gave it to him right out of the machine. So James came in and was like, "Sir, is there a problem here?" And the guy started ranting at him too. So he was just like, "OP, this is unacceptable. You're fired." I started acting real sad like, "No, please don't fire me. My family needs the money. I need this job, please." And he played up being a hard ass telling me to take off my apron and leave. The angry guy started to backtrack like, "It isn't that big of a problem. You don't need to fire her over it. I didn't mean it." And James was like, "No, we pride ourselves on the best customer service." Of course, after all that drama, I still had my job. We were just acting. And we've done it a couple of times. Whenever a customer will lose their temper at Daniel or I, James will storm in and fire us. And almost every time, the person who had come in angry will apologize and say that they didn't mean it. It's kind of satisfying making people realize their actions might actually have consequences. Anyway, I was telling my friends from school about this and a few of them thought it was a mean prank to let someone go away thinking that gotten someone who desperately needs the money fired.
NTA fun fact: Harrods actually hires people for this. If a customer is upset in the store, the manager will call back the offender and fire them in front of the customer to satiate them. Then, the guy whose job it is to be fired just goes back to the back room and waits for another customer to get angry so he can be fired again. I think it's even better that you're using it to make people think twice about being a holes in the store at it. So I've just looked over all the responses and a lot of people are telling me it's not true. Honestly, the first place I saw this fact was elsewhere on Reddit, being talked about completely seriously, and none of the replies claimed it to be false or untrue. I know it's not a reliable info source, but I kinda just saw this post, remembered what I had read and thought it may be a good addition to the thread. However, seeing as it's false, I don't really see the harm in not removing it cause it's still a humorous concept to think about, but after seeing the comments and researching for myself it's clear my fun fact should not really be labeled as such. Info as it stands, YTA. Your only explanation for what customers are doing is, so sometimes customers will come in and just be angry about such little stuff. Like literally blow up about nothing. This tells us nothing. What are they specifically doing? The one customer you gave a semi-specific example about was complaining about the temperature of their coffee. Doing something like what you and your coworker did is definitely an asshole move in this situation, and I'm willing to bet if the owner was there, the two of you would have been reprimanded. The customer was simply stating the coffee at your establishment isn't being made hot enough to his standards. The better course of action would have been to apologize and explain it is made at the temp supported by your equipment, and if they need it hotter, they may need to look for a new coffee shop that brews at higher temps. Customer service is a difficult job, and many people aren't cut out for it. There is almost always a better answer than being an asshole back to them. Unless you've forgotten to tell us something more specific about what people are doing to you, YTA. The SH customers suck for obvious reasons. You guys suck because even though your intentions are good, teach moronic customers a lesson. Your antics behind the counter of pretending to get fired are going to create a reputation for your coffee shop that management there is flippant and quick to fire employees over nothing. You think you're teaching the customer a lesson, but in reality, you're creating unwarranted reviews and rumors that your shop is run by fire-happy management. That could deter patrons from coming to your shop. Your friend James is in a leadership position, and he could potentially be hurting his father's business. That's the real reason you suck here. Your pranks reflect on the business, and it goes up to ownership who ultimately will deal with it when it comes down to the numbers. James' father could fire you both for trying to trick customers because it could in turn lead to certain customers never returning to the coffee shop or spreading reviews to friends to not go there for coffee because they dislike the management. Yeah, they might be dicks, but they're still buying stuff. Because customers can be absolute tools, but what you're doing is potentially hurting James' father and his business in this story. You're getting a lot of NTA because Reddit has a constant hard-on for revenge. But in the real world, it's usually not a good idea to do something like this at work. Does your boss know? If the owner has blessed this prank, then by all means keep going. But most bosses, especially small business owners, would never put up with this because it could hurt business and lose them money. What if a customer comes back and sees you, then catches on that it was a prank? They could leave a bad review and tell all their friends to stop coming, or they could complain directly to your boss, assuming he's unaware, and get you fired for real. Believe me, I sympathize with your position. I also worked food service jobs in high school and had to endure all kinds of shitty customers and their bullshit. Unfortunately, that's something you have to put up with in this kind of job, and you are in fact paid to do just that. The best thing to do is act apologetic, let the customer bitch, give them what they want or whatever store policy mandates, then vent about it with friends or coworkers when you get off shift. That's really funny, keep doing it, but you are an arsehole. Adults shouldn't put all their problems out on you, and it's also immature to try to teach them a lesson, especially when you don't know what's got them in that mood. They don't need a teenager just in the workforce to teach them that their actions have consequences. If they don't know by now, they'll never learn, and you, a person who hasn't experienced their world, aren't a person to be teaching them. Don't pretend that you are in some kind of justification. Also know that at some point that will backfire. Either a customer will get mad and talk to your boss, or it will escalate. Guys, don't do this, because we get punched. Look at that, actions have consequences. Not that I'm telling you to stop, again it's funny, just know that you're doing it for yourself, perfectly fine, and is a prick move, also fine.
Am I the a-hole for switching to regular milk to prove my lactose-intolerant roommate keeps stealing from me? Me and two other guys share an apartment together and we split all the bills. The only thing we don't split costs on is groceries. Everyone's in charge of buying their own food and we don't touch whatever doesn't belong to us in the fridge. We put our names on everything so no one gets mixed up. This issue has been going on almost a year and I'm sick of it. One of my roommates keeps stealing my food. I get home from work and containers with my leftovers are sometimes missing. They have my name written on it, or my stuff finishes too quick. My gallon of milk, for example, I buy almond milk because I like the taste, but it seems to finish after a week even though I only drank once or twice. I confronted R about this lots of times and that's caused a lot of arguments. He outright denies it and tells me I'm crazy even though it's so obvious. My other roommate and I carpool together because we both work the same early morning shifts around the same area, so I know it's not him. It's always after we get back home and R's already left for work that I notice my food's gone. My roommates also had a similar problem but not as often as I do. I'm guessing because R doesn't like what he buys. The funny thing is, R buys a lot for himself and is even more stingy about his food. He will literally point out what's his when he comes back from grocery shopping and tells us not to touch it. Last week, my milk was nearly empty again and I got fed up. I went to the liquor store and bought regular dairy milk. I drank what was left on my almond milk and refilled the gallon with the one I bought. This was to prove R is the one stealing since he's lactose intolerant. The next day, Saturday, we get back from work and R is pissed. He yelled at me that he was stuck in the bathroom for 40 minutes with diarrhea because of my milk. He was using it to make a shake. I only responded with, "So then you're the one who's been stealing." He freaking exploded. Yeah, he admitted he was sometimes drinking my milk and eating my food, but he was more mad that I switched milks than the fact that he was caught. I told him I wouldn't have done that if he had just stopped taking my stuff from the fridge or at least told the truth instead of trying to make it seem like I was making it up. My roommate backed me up and thought it was kind of funny he got payback for stealing from us. It's a little tense right now and my roommate told me R is trying to convince him to agree to kick me out. Little does he know we're both looking to move somewhere else together because we are sick of his shit. I told somebody what happened and a few think I was an a-hole for that. I feel like I'm not in the wrong here. He was taking my food and not even owning up to it, and I wanted to prove it. Does that make me the a-hole?
NTA, and this is kind of hilarious. I used to work in a particular kitchen where my drinks WLD go missing all the time. Obviously energy drinks, special vitamin drinks and Gatorade. We have soda all day on the fountain, but I'm not a huge fan, and WLD buys stuff to keep me hydrated. I knew who it was and it was basically confirmed by a coworker stating he did it because he really just didn't like me. I got the managerial position that he would have had, but he quit and came back 3 months later. They literally found one of my vitamin waters I had left and they said, "Man, this shit sucks, but if it's my name, fuck 'em." I brought it up and they obviously denied it. Then I decided to open a drink and put X-Lax in it. He WLD legitimately drink out of open drinks, gross, so I knew he WLD and T even checked the seal. Man got horrible diarrhea on a busy Saturday. He still never admitted to drinking anything of mine, but at least now he stopped. Honestly crazy to look back at how frustrating that situation was. Pretty sure he shit his pants a bit later at a bar. All smiles to me. NTA, it's funny because a similar story came up on the sub about a brother-sister dynamic and the brother accidentally left something with peanuts in the fridge unmarked. The sister who has a mild allergy ate it, as was the said issue in the post. She had a reaction. The users were saying if he had done it on purpose then he was the ass. Which I disagreed with. However, I think you followed the correct course. You confronted the person. They lied. You are free to do what you want with your milk. Put in a mayo container. Put the mayo in the milk container. Let it spoil. Put Trinidad scorpion peppers in it. Who cares? It's your milk. He's stealing your food. To hell with him. You have every right to be intolerant to his actions. I'm lactose intolerant, and that's all that would have happened to me, but the amount of lactose needed for a reaction, and the reaction itself does vary. I've met people that get physically ill from the smallest bit of cheese and are impacted for a few days after, and people who only get gas or mild diarrhea after a few slices of pizza. If you knew his symptoms ahead of time and then NTA, but if you were just winging it and didn't know how it would affect him then YTA. As long as you're still living there, you might want to switch it up and put your almond milk in an empty dairy milk container just to make sure he's not tempted. He freaking exploded. He already had been doing that. Zing. NTA mostly. My only quibble, if you don't know the extent of his medical condition, doctoring with someone's food allergies, even if they are being isn't a great thing to do. I don't think a serious lactose intolerance will kill someone, but I'm not a doctor. You would hate to have to explain this to emergency personnel. Yes, I know he had this food allergy, but he was being a jerk and I wanted to fuck him over. This guy sounds like a jerk. I hope he actually learned something from this and from his roommates leaving him.
Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend to shut the fuck up after she insulted my sister's thighs? I'm 30 and my 12-year-old sister is living with me right now because mom and pops are vulnerable, so it made more sense for me to take care for my sis for the time being. She is a really great kid and to be honest, I feel in a lot of ways like she's my own kid because mom and dad don't speak English, so I kind of had to raise my sis in ways that they couldn't. Hard to explain, but I'm sure anyone with a secondary culture will get what I mean. My mom and dad are great parents, but having an English-speaking person to guide you through shit when you live in an English-speaking country is invaluable. In my opinion, and my sister trusts me with stuff she won't necessarily trust my parents with. Anyway, my girlfriend was FaceTiming me and my sister walked past in shorts and a t-shirt cause it's hot. My sister GF waited till my sister had left the area, but not the room. Made a face and said maybe feed her less, OP. Her thighs are kinda chunky. I saw red and told her to shut the fuck up, just came out of my mouth and immediately ended the call. My sister is a bit chubby but FFS who says stuff like that about a 12-year-old girl. Literally, everybody I know has been texting me that I'm a POS boyfriend and that how can I disrespect my GF like that. I am expecting an apology from her but to my shock, everybody is expecting me to apologize. So Reddit, am I the a-hole?
The SAH, but the GF is worse. You could have firmly said don't talk about my sister's weight like that. Most people would apologize to a reaction like that. If you wanted to open a further dialogue about why that is inappropriate you could do so. But instead, you blew your top and stormed away. You are not an asshole, but this was an immature way to react. I understand that family makes people emotional and irrational, so your reaction is still understandable. Your GF actions and comments make me think of people I know who draw self-worth from putting others down. What some people would call a bully. Her comment is cutting in two ways. It's attacking a 12-year-old girl's body image, and it attacks your ability to raise her, something you obviously take pride in. So much NTA, and the fact that your girlfriend doesn't get why she's ta is a huge red flag. By the time most girls are 12 they are hyper-aware of their bodies and how their bodies are being perceived by others, and that age in particular is a huge minefield of garbage that girls have to deal with. It's when both body shaming and sexual harassment really becomes a thing, which is a contradictory minfic in its own right. I don't think I'm being melodramatic when I say that hearing something like that could lead to a girl not wearing shorts again for her entire teen years. But what's an alarm bell in my mind is that your girlfriend knows this, and instead of realizing how fucked up it is, she's enforcing the deranged rules that were likely enforced on her and all of the other girls she knows. And her friends' reactions indicate the same, that instead of coming to the realization that these rules are bullshit, they are now the ones who are enforcing them on other innocent girls and women. This unfortunately isn't a wildly uncommon reaction, but it is a wildly inappropriate one. NTA, and the weirdest part about the whole thing is that comments like that usually come from a place of insecurity or jealousy, along with being mean. So your grown-ass girlfriend saw your kid sister walk by and felt threatened or insecure in some way. It ain't like she was essentially calling her fat out of concern. Edit. I'm standing by my judgment because I can't blame you at all for your reaction, and I probably would have done the same thing you did, but someone else did make a good point. Your sister should never have to be on the receiving end of criticism like that about her body, but she also shouldn't witness you cursing yelling at your significant other. It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you should have said it to your girlfriend, it's about your sister not needing a bad example of how she should expect to be treated when she's in a relationship. Bitch the girlfriend. Not only did she say a horrible thing about a vulnerable kid, she bitched to everyone you know, making you out to be the person in the wrong. Is this something you want in your life? She has a lack of sensitivity that will not work. Her remark was uncalled for and cruel. If ever there is a time to tell someone to shut the fuck up, it's when they've been so hurtful to a child. Girls your sister's age get so many messages that they don't measure up physically, and it's bullshit. If she was truly concerned about her weight she could have had a private, respectful conversation, not saying something shitty your sister might hear. Oh, and just because your sis may act like she didn't hear it, don't be too sure. At that age hearing something like that would be so hurtful and embarrassing that she would probably pretend she didn't hear it as she's just too embarrassed to discuss it. NTA. I'm assuming your girlfriend is around the same age as you and not a teen or a child. There's no reason a grown woman should be talking about a child that way. If your girlfriend cared about your sister's weight, she would have a normal conversation with you about it and just say something like, hey, I'm worried that your sister might be unhappy and unhealthy. She's been gaining weight and I'm worried for her. I can show her some exercises if you think she'd be interested. Not just making faces like a little creep and talking shit about a kid. Is your girlfriend also from the same ethnic background as you? I wonder if this is playing a role on how she sees your sister. Also, maybe your girlfriend has been reaching out to your friends crying and telling a very one-sided story. That's already immature. Even if my boyfriend told me to shut the fuck up, I wouldn't immediately go running to spread my drama to our friends. It's such an overreaction, especially if she isn't planning on breaking up for it. I think you had every right to say what you said. And I wouldn't blame you if you flat out left her. Because to make a comment like that reeks of something much bigger. I'm not saying you should break up, just saying I wouldn't call you an asshole if you did.